pray one accord.
哈利路亚，奉主圣名祷告。哈利路亚，奉主圣名，我们继续我们的课程。
Hallelujah, in the name of our Lord Jesus, we'll continue our class.
我们先把昨天讲的，我们再做一个很快的整理。
And first, we'll do a quick summary of yesterday's lesson.
那个时代，
So the era will change,
那常常有它的一个特征。
and oftentimes there is its own characteristics.
哦，这个是很复杂的一个总和的一个结果。
And this is a complex conclusion.
因为有些就是时代转变，常常都是神的旨意在那里，
Because when era changes, the will of God is there.
但是人也要负责任。
But man must also have its own responsibilities.
所以我们昨天有讲哈，第一个圣殿，
The first is the temple,
不是，
the first temple.
那第二个圣殿
And then there's the second temple.
这个当中呢，就是他们的神拜的神改变了。
And in the midst, the God that they worship changed.
他们本来是拜神独一的神，
And at first they worshiped the one God.
对他们来讲是他们的父啊，
And at the time it was their father.
那这是神啊，一个他们的王。
And this God was their king.
他们受外邦的影响
But then they had received influence from the outside Gentiles.
他们又把什么？昨天我们讲的，在你有没有去查那个耶利米书第44章？
And did you look at
有几个什么？
did you take a look at Jeremiah chapter 44? How many others did they worship?
出现这个字，
And so the queen, this came out, the Queen of Heaven.
那当然对他们来讲的话，这是新的哈，所以他们全家努力在拜。
And so to them, this was new, so the entire nation was worshiping this fervently.
所以在这个的时候，转变的时候，他们是神观改变。
So in this time of the change, their understanding of God has changed.
啊，到了新约呢，
So when it comes to the New Testament,
我们也有看那个稗子的比喻哈，
that we have seen this
tear
this tear,
的比喻啊。
this no, the parable of the tares.
恶者把种子种下去，
The wicked one put the tares, planted the tares,
就是魔鬼哈。
and that is the devil, Satan.
那就长出稗子来。
And so it grew tares.
那这个稗子是在使徒时代哈，
And so this tares was during the time of the apostles.
有没有除掉？
Was it removed?
那时候不要。
And God said, no, not this time.
稗子跟麦子一起，
So the wheat and the tares were together.
那什么时候会除掉？
And so at what point will it be removed?
就是收割的时候。
That is at the time of harvest.
哎，所以使徒时代，啊，就新约里面，啊，用这个圣殿所象征的教会，
So this apostolic time is
这个圣殿哈
this at this
If
temple.
the temple symbolize
The temple
church.
symbolizes the church at the
哎，如果是这样，那
So-
第一个圣殿就是使徒时代的教会，
And so the first temple was the is represented by the apostolic church.
在这个时候呢，
At this point,
我们看到就是稗子出来。
we see the tares come out. Yes, tares.
T
A
A
A
B C D
R
A R，
E E
这是 E
C
还
D
是
E.
这个 E 啊？
No, didn't like E here. S
啊，会的呢 A W
H
H
E E A T.
有没有 S 啊？
没有。
一起长，
So these grow together.
长到什么时候？
And when will they grow until?
我们说这是第一个圣殿，第二个圣殿。
So we say this is that's the first temple and this is the second temple.
因为这是世界末了的。
And this is because this is the end of the world, towards the end of the world.
这里到这里，在圣经有很多的那个启示，就是了。
And from Apostolic Age to TJC, there's a lot of tears.
使徒行传的28章28节哈，
From Acts chapter 28, verse 28.
这个大家都很知道哈，这是使徒的最后一句话，
And this is the last words from apostles.
就是使徒讲出来的话。
The last words that the apostles spoke.
这个很知道哈，
So you know this.
在这个句子里面有两个不一样的那个时态，
And these words, there's
不是 words 的 sentence，
the sentence has two parts,
不是
two
two
tenses.
哎，
Two tenses.
那第一个是，如果以希腊文来讲是 auris 就是 past tense，
The first is a past tense,
那另外一个是 future
and the second is the future
的未
tense,
来，
the things that will come.
是未来式。
This is the things that will come.
那个福音已经传给外邦人了，
So the gospel has been preached to the Gentiles.
你念一下28。
Acts chapter 28, verse 28. Therefore, let it be known to you that the salvation of God has been sent to the Gentiles.
英文是用那个现在完成式翻出来的。
And so now in the English, it's been translated into the present tense.
不是
Oh,
present，
into the,
现在完成
oh, it has been done.
has been
It's been
sent
sent.
这是什么 tense？
Past tense. Yes, past.
啊，
Yeah.
不是啦，英文不是，英文没有 aorist 的，
Past tense.
不是，这是现在完成式了，perfect 了，这是 perfect tense。下面那个呢
And the next one,
？And 怎么样
and they will hear it.
they will hear it， 这是 future， 以后才会发生的。
And this is the future tense. It will happen in the future.
我每次讲到这里，都会问啊，你会不会感觉奇怪？
And whenever I say this, I ask, do you find it strange?
你读过嘛，对不对？
Have you read it?
你有没有感觉奇怪？
Do you find it strange?
如果你不感觉奇怪，你这个人是奇怪，
If you don't feel strange, then you're strange yourself.
奇怪吗？
Do you find strange?
是不是？
Yes.
你妈妈说，
Your mom says
我们这个孩子已经听我的话，
this child has already heard my voice,
他以后才要听我的话。
and now in the future he will hear my voice.
到底你有没有听他的话？
So have you heard?
是不是？我奇怪的要命。
So it seems like very strange.
你说哦，这个孩子已经在赚钱了，
That my son's already making money,
但是他以后才会赚钱。
but in the future then he'll make money.
到底是有赚钱没赚钱？
So has he made money or not?
我孩子已经在工作了，
My son is working,
但是他以后才会工作。
but in the future he will work.
外邦人已经这个福音已经传给他们了。
This gospel has already been given to the Gentiles.
使徒时代，他们有没有信啊？
In the apostolic age, did they believe?
有没有？
Did they?
有啊。
Yes, they did.
保罗说他是外邦人的使徒，
Paul said that he was the apostles of the Gentiles.
但是呢，他们外邦人以后才要信。
But the Gentiles will believe in the future.
保罗讲最后一句话，
And this was the last words that Paul said.
就是讲话的最后一句话，
And this is the last word that is recorded he said
他就死了。
before he died.
接下来他就要再2年嘛，那个是叙述性的，
And later on there was to be 2 more
Bao.
years. And so that would be his
这是一个 narrative。
that will be his that's the narrative.
这个 narrative 是作者的 narrative。
And this narrative is the author's narrative here.
使徒时代，
So the apostolic age,
福音已经传给外邦，
the gospel has already been preached to the Gentiles.
以后
But in the future,
这一束教会才会出来，
only in the future will the True Jesus Church
这
come.
是外邦人的教会。
And this will be the Church of the Gentiles.
使徒时代是以犹太人为主体的教会，
Then the apostolic age was the Jewish established church.
所以保罗那个时代哈，
So in the time of Paul,
他传到最后，都是每一次去到一个地方，一定是以那个犹太会堂为开始传道。
every time he moved to a new place, he will always start at the Jewish synagogue to preach the gospel.
每一次哦，
Every time.
耶稣来，
When Jesus
一
came,
开始他也是去那个以色列尼斯的家那里，
the first that he would go to the Israelites,
尼斯啊，
the
尼
lost
斯的家
lost sheep of the
啊，
Israelites.
还记得吗？哈，所以刚开始使徒时代是以犹太人为主的，那外邦人只是他们传了，这些不听了，他就跑到外面去了。
So in the apostolic age, the church was established from the Jews, and only when they didn't listen, then it was just passed on to the Gentiles.
啊，所以在使徒时代最先败坏的是什么？
So at this, what did they do wrong at this time?
不是败坏，
What did they worship?
不是
How did they get corrupt?
他败坏就是 anathema， 就是anathema。好了，我们看一节圣经节哈，
So let's turn to a verse,
那个提摩太后书2章18节。
2 Timothy.
anathema。没听过啊，那这个呢 ？uprevert 也没听过 ，overthrow
Yeah, subvert.
哦 subvert。好，来念一下。
So it's 9, 10.
2
sorry,
not
Timothy,
18.
2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 18. Second Timothy chapter 2, verse 18. Who have strayed concerning the truth, saying that the resurrection is already past, and they overthrow the faith of some.
所以在保罗那个时候，已经道理会败坏人的信心，
So at the time of Paul, that the
偏离的
teachings
正当哈，
the teachings would already be corrupt those who would listen to it.
就是upset the faith of some，
It will upset the faith of some.
能够把人的那个信心给那 upset， 把它
That it will
倒
upset
转过来。
that it will change and upset the faith of some of them, the members.
那提多书1章11节哈，
So in Titus, Titus chapter 1, verse 11. Titus chapter 1, verse 11. Whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole households, teaching things which they ought not to, for the sake of dishonest gain.
那再回到我们的使徒行传，
So let's return to
使徒行传
Acts.
28章。
Acts chapter 28.
保罗在讲28章28节之前呢，
Before before Paul said what he said in Acts chapter 28, verse 28,
其实他是把以赛亚书的第6章的预言把它讲出来。
but he first spoke a prophecy from Isaiah chapter 6.
你看那个第25节，
Let's turn to verse 25. Acts chapter 8, verse 25. So when they did not agree among themselves, they departed after Paul had said one word. The Holy Spirit spoke rightly through Isaiah the prophets to our fathers.
继续念。
26, saying, Go to this people and say, Hearing you will hear and shall not understand, and seeing you will see and not perceive. 27, For the hearts of this people have grown dull, their ears are hard at hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should see with their eyes and hear with their ears, lest they should understand with their hearts and turn, so that I should heal them.
其实，在旧约里面哈，
In fact, during the Old Testament,
第一个圣殿到第二个圣殿当中也是发生这样的事情，
between the first and the second temple, at this time thing also occurred.
就是差遣去传警告，
That this to be sent out to
sent out to warn people.
to warn the people.
那我们看以赛亚书6章，
So let's turn to Isaiah chapter 6.
刚刚念的就是从这里出来。
What we just read came from there.
第9节
Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9.
一直到13节，
Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9 to 13.
这是一个很悲哀的时代啊。
And this was a very problemsome
Very
era.
sad,
Very sad.
tragic
It was a very tragic
就是
time.
悲剧哈，就是你明明知道这个事情会发生，
That you clearly knew that this will happen,
但是你就看着它发生了，
but all you can do is watch it happen.
一定要发生，
That it will certainly unfold.
没有办法回转。
That you cannot change it.
以赛亚那时候就讲了一样的信息。
So, and Isaiah said the same message.
你如果把以赛亚书、耶利米书、以西结书做一个连贯的整理的话，
If you combine the book of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel,
以赛亚做预言，
Isaiah made the prophecy.
那个耶利米遇到了，
That Jeremiah encountered it.
所以他哭到不行啊，
So he could not help but cry.
对不对？眼泪哇，好像河水在流啊。
So it was as if he was crying a river.
哎，那以西结呢，
So how about Ezekiel?
做个检讨，
That he did a reflection.
检讨预言，都说你看已经预言了，还是这样子，没办法。
He did a reflection of the prophecy, and he showed that this prophecy has come true.
所以这个时代过去了，
So this era has passed.
属时代呢，
So what about the apostolic age?
保罗也讲出来了，
Paul also said the same thing.
对谁讲？
Who did he say it to?
对犹太人，
He said to the Jews.
对，所以在使徒时代是停留在犹太人还有外邦人加进来的这个时代。
So the age of the apostles was the time of the church of the Jews, and Gentiles were added in.
好，这个其实就是这个。
So this was actually this 25:27 was actually Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9 to 13.
保罗知道再传也没有人要听，
And Paul knew that whatever he said, no one else would want to listen.
但是要不要传呢？
But did he still have to preach?
在当时也要。
Yes, he still had to.
所以那个提摩太后书4章，
So in 2 Timothy chapter 4,
4章1到第6节，
2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 to 6. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 to 6.
其实这两个是有点类似的，
In fact, these two are related.
是不是这样写？是这样还是两个？有没有这样的符号？相似啊？
It's a similar.
有没有？
有。
啊？
应该有。
数学有没有？
Yeah. 有。Is it?
是
No, similar. It's related.
这样子啊？
No, 我想是第一。对。
到底是怎么样？没有人读数学吗
Is double symbol? Oh. Approximate. 像
这个对，两个这样子，那就不要画线就是。我学的是，那你们是两个，可以，反正就是这样就是。
So, anyways, it's like it will be like approximately.
没有学数学系的吗？
Is there no one here that studied math?
是怎么样？
What does it look like?
这样子吗？
That's equal.
It's like wavy equal.
但是我要这个跟这个啊，
But I want to match those.
可以吗
Is this okay?
？Is allowed.
Is this allowed?
Is allowed. 啊？哦。这两个有一点一样哦。
So both of these are similar.
你看这个以赛亚书，
You see Isaiah.
我们每次在 recruit 那个什么 TTP student 都会用这个。
Every time that we want to recruit TTP students, we'll use this verse.
去年什么叫 send me 有没有？
In the previous years, there was a send me.
有没有你们这边？我说 I'm here，我在此，请差遣我，
Send me, I am here.
啊，对不对？那其实这样子不够
Yeah.
的，
But in fact, this is not enough.
要跟他讲什么？
What did you need to tell them?
你以后你去传，没有人要听，
That when you preach, no one want to listen to you.
耳朵聋了，
对
眼睛。
Their
要讲这个
ears are deaf, and their
年
eyes are
轻人
blind.
每次都说，什么 Christian soldier 啊，我在此，
The youth always say, "Oh, I want to be a Christian soldier.
哎，你要出去了
That I will need to be. I want to be sent out."
啊，这个只是开始而已啊，
But this is only at the beginning.
要讲什么？
What do you want to? What do you have to say?
以赛亚说：“我差辞，
你
请差遣我。
Isaiah said, "Here I am. Send me." ”
那神跟他什么说？
And what did God tell him?
就刚刚念的，
That God told him what we just read.
你去哈，
You'll send. Go.
你没有人听你，
But no one will listen to you.
你会不会去？
Would you go then?
我要去，
Oh, I want to go. But no one's listening.
啊，那这去有什么目的？
So what's the purpose of me going?
那你就不去了吗？
So then, will you not go?
他还是要去啊，
No, he still had to
心
go.
理准备没人听啊。
That he had to prepare himself that no one would listen.
啊，当然，以赛亚就问啦、
So Isaiah then asked,
我们在想说，是不是等到人听才去嘛，对不对？
usually we would wait until people will listen to us, then we'll go.
啊，那 我们看第11节，
So let's look at verse 11.
他说主啊，主啊，
Lord,
这要到几时呢？
for how long?
好了，要好了
For how long?
啊，
Isaiah chapter 6. Isaiah chapter 6, verse 11.
要等到什么时候？
So when should he wait until?
神说要等到什么时候？
And so what did God respond? For how long?
什么？神怎么回答？
What did God respond with?
不用等了，
He doesn't have to wait.
要等到人家听是没有这个时候。
If you want to wait until people are willing to listen, there will never be a time.
要到什么时候呢？
So when should he go to?
城邑荒凉，无人居住；房屋空闲，无人。哎，
Verse 11.
要等到什么时候？
What should he wait for?
等到都没有人了，
Until there was no one left.
房子拆了，
Until the houses are empty.
人也抓了，
Until people are captive.
什么都没有了。
Until there's nothing left.
要不要等？
Do you want to wait?
等到最后就没有了，你还去做什么？
If you wanted to wait until then, there will be no one left. So what are you doing?
神就说：“你现在就要去
So-
去讲给那些不听的人。
So God told him that you must go now and talk to the people who will not listen.
他们是谁呢？
And who are they?
听不懂的，
They're the people who do not understand.
心门有的，
They do not perceive.
眼睛发沉的，
Their eyes are shut.
听也听不懂。
That those they hear but they do not understand.
在这里，保罗是不是这样说的？
And didn't Paul say this here in 2
保罗说
Timothy?
你得死不得死，总要传去。
That whether you want to or not, you have to go out.
得死不得死啊，
Oh,
牺牲哦，
Whether they listen or
不是
whether in season or out of season, you have to go
得
out.
死不得死。好，那总要去，
So how do you go?
那你要很大忍耐啊，
You have to have great patience
因为呢，时候要到。第3节，
because the time will come. In verse 3,
他讲的都是这些现象。
he says all of these parables
人的心厌烦呐、
that
纯
people's
正的道理，
the people's hearts are hard, that they will not listen to sound
耳
doctrine,
朵发沉。
that their ears are itching.
第4节，
Verse 4,
不听啊，
they will not listen.
偏向荒谬的言语，
That they will listen to fables.
你会不会去啊？
Would you go then?
保罗说你也要去。
Paul says you must go.
那最后在这里呢，
And at the very end, at this time,
保罗把6章9节到10节的这个话，重新又在这里讲一次。
so in Acts chapter 28, in the time of Acts chapter 28, Paul once again spoke the words from Isaiah chapter 6.
所以这里呢，就这个会这样子，
So Isaiah chapter 6 would then be transferred to Acts chapter 28.
有没有相似？
Do you see the similarities?
其实这里的转变跟这里的转变相似。
In fact, the changes that in the Old Testament occurred at the same time as the New Testament.
这是现象啊，
This is a similarity
不是
phenomenon.
phenomenon。那它的内容是什么？
And so, what is the content?
就是神观问题。
It's the problem of the understanding of God.
Godhead 的那个 concept change。 所以一个时代的转变，常常是那个什么神观的转变。
So the changes at the time is the changes of the understanding of Godhead.
昨天我们讲到这里哈，
So yesterday we ended here. We talked to here.
对神观首先改变的是，我们这是要看教会历史啊。
And so what the changes in the Godhead is something that we need to look at the history of the
我们
church.
先来讲结果。
So let's first talk about the conclusion,
那
the
个
result.
启示录，
Let's look at Revelations.
启示录第2章，
Revelations chapter 2.
第2章第9节。
Revelations chapter 2 verse 9. Revelations chapter 2 verse 9.
好，请你念。
I know your works, tribulation and poverty, but you are rich. And I know the blasphemy of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan.
记忆啊，
A synagogue of Satan.
写希腊比较快的 synagogue，
It's faster to write it in Greek.
撒旦的 synagogue，
The
这个我们知道。
synagogue of Satan
Revelation 29，
in Revelations 2 verse 9.
好记就是39，
And another one to remember is Revelations 3 verse 9.
一样。
It's the same thing.
犹太会堂是主耶稣去礼拜的地方哦。
That the synagogue is a place where Jesus went to preach,
去做礼拜。
to do his to
Worship.
go worship.
安息日，耶稣进会堂，就是去进 synagogue，
That during the Sabbath day, Jesus entered the synagogues,
他是照平常的规矩。
but according to the usual rules.
保罗一直在 synagogue 那个传福音。
And Paul kept preaching inside the synagogues.
到了启示录的时代，
But by the time of the Revelation,
启示录就是最后，以时间来讲，最后的一部书了。
and in Revelations, you could say that's the last book of the end.
启示录其实里面就是讲真耶稣教会。
And the book of Revelation is talking about the true Jesus Church.
哎，在这里面的话，你看那个第2章，这里是讲当时的情形哈。
And in chapter 2 and chapter 3, what you see is the situation at the time of the writing.
本来 synagogue 应该做 synagogue of God，
At the time, it should be synagogue of God.
但现在呢，
But right now,
被撒旦吃掉了。
it is now belonging to Satan.
为什么？
Why?
神观改变。
Because the concept of Godhead has changed.
如果你们如果上那个，你们来 TTP 读就会读到。
If you come study TTP, you will at TTP you'll read about
我
this.
去美国那一班呢，
If you go to the United States,
是我教的，
I teach this course.
就是那个 doctrine history。
It's the history of the doctrinal history.
那你会讲到这个神观，
And then we'll talk about this Godhead.
在历史里面，神观第一个改变的就是什么呢？
And so, what was the first change in the Godhead in history?
就是那个以便尼派，
It is the idea of Ebionites.
以便这个字其实是从希伯来文来的，是穷的。
And this is a word from Greek which means poor.
圣经里面有穷人，
And is there the poor in the Bible?
你还记得吗？
Do you remember?
好，对了，你讲的那个加拉太书，
It's in the book of Galatians.
加拉太书第3章，
Galatians chapter 3.
第2章好，
Galatians
就
chapter
是这
2.
这批人。
And this is the group of people.
加拉太书2章，如果9节10节，你看哈，他们在保罗出来之后，他们那个宣道就分成2个世界。
And so in Galatians chapter 2, verse 9 and 10, that their gospel has been split to two.
To field，
Two fields.
就好像我们联总有2个宣道区，一个什么东宣，一个西宣。
For example, there's like how IA is split into east and west districts.
我们这里是属西半球宣道中心。
And so we are considered part of the Western Hemisphere.
知道吗 ？West Hemisphere Evangelical Center， 或是那个 Department。那个 chair 就是跑掉了，不是没有了，就是梁传道。
So the chair of the evangelical department is
西半球宣道
Bishop
中
Liang.
心。
And this is the evangelism in the Western Hemisphere.
你们来报名的时候有没有？
When you came to register,
第一次报名，
the first time you registered,
谁同意啊？
who had to agree to it?
你还记得吗？
Do you remember?
谁同意你来？
Who agreed to you coming?
不是 AMCT 啊。
It was not the AMTC.
是谁啊？啊，不是，是西半球宣道中心。
It's the Western Hemisphere Evangelical Center.
因为我们这个是西半球宣道中心的一个 organization，
Because we are an organization under the Western Hemisphere Evangelical Center.
属于联总 IA 西半球那个 非洲圣公小组的那个什么志工，
We have the IA, and then under the Western Hemisphere, and then under the African Ministry Committee,
然后呢
and then underneath
志
that,
工团
it's the
的
the volunteer. Volunteer.
这样知道吗？好，在当时呢也是分两个，
So at the time, it was split into two parts.
一个是往那个受割礼的那边去，
And first, it was the gospel of the circumcised,
一个是外邦人那
and
边去。
then the second is the gospel of the uncircumcised, the
那
Gentiles.
保罗他们要纪念穷人，
And so Paul was asked to remember the poor.
那这 poor 是谁？
And who is the poor?
是谁？
Who are they?
就是住在耶路撒冷那一些原始的那个，在当时来讲，犹太人。
It's the original believers who were living at the time in Jerusalem.
现在你听到犹太人，一定会想到很有钱、很聪明，对不对？
Right now, when you think of Jews, you'll think of someone who is very intelligent and very rich.
只是现代。
But that's only in the current
历
era.
史查一下，
If you look in history,
犹太人在历史上总是又穷，又都是住在那 slum area。
and in the history, Jews were the ones who were always poor and living in the slums.
那然后呢，他们最有名的是什么？
And what were they most famous for?
偷，
They were famous for stealing.
知道吗？
Did you know that?
这既然圣经啊，这不可以乱讲的。
This was from the Bible. You can't just say anything.
你有没有读过？
Did you read about this?
有啊。
Yes.
他们专门，就好像现在，如果你去意大利啊、西班牙，有一种人啊，专门偷的，他们专门偷观光客。
And so if they're similar to the people in Italy and Greece nowadays, where they are known for stealing.
我如果看到我就赶快跑啊！
Spain.
不骗你
Spain, sorry. Huh?
啊，他们在当时专门偷，
So at the time they were they stole.
他们偷什么？
What did they steal?
到那个外邦人的那个庙神像去偷。
They went to the temples of the Gentiles to steal from.
你不知道哈？
You didn't know this.
那我们看一下那个这保罗讲的啊
So we look at what this is what Paul said.
罗马书，
Let's look at Romans.
罗马书第2章，
Romans chapter 2,
从17节开始
from verse 17.
啊，这个不是我们要讲的哈。
And this is not what we want to really talk about.
哦，那个第21节好了。
Let's
因
look
为
at
这
verse 21.
是讲犹太人哈，
Because this is talking to the
你
Jews.
成为犹太人，对不对？你有很多的好处啊哈。
Yeah, if you were a Jew, then you had a lot of benefits.
好，但是呢，
But
你讲说人不可偷窃，自己还偷，
you
他们偷
teach
什么呢？
you teach others not to steal, but you yourself steal. What did they steal?
22节哈，
22.
你愿恶偶像，自己却庙中之物。
You who abhor idols, do you rob temples?
为什么他们做这个？
Why did they do this?
因为在当时他们是普遍穷。
Because at the time they were poor.
为什么笑到这个？我是
Why nothing?
这是历史啊，不是讲现在犹太，现在犹太人是有钱啊。
I'm talking from the Bible, and this is history. Nowadays, Jews have more money.
你读历史就是了，
But-
犹太人说是到处都是被。
But if you read history, that the Jews were always were
那个有一个威尼斯商人有一本书有没有？
there was a book, The Merchant of Venice.
啊，对不对？里面犹太人是怎么样？你看了现在有
In the book, in that story, what was the Jew?
有没有？你读了怎么样？会不会跟现在犹太人的放在一起？
You can't compare them to the Jews of the time.
不一样嘛哈。
They're different.
那个时候是这样子的
And at that time, it was like this.
啊，因为偶像在希伯来语是 nothing，
Because for a Jew, an idol is nothing.
所以你到没有东西的那里去拿东西是应该的。
So you should, if you go to somewhere that has nothing to take stuff, then that should be
所以
right.
你拿 nobody 的东西，
You steal nothing from nobody.
懂意思吗？ 所以他们专门偷庙里的东西，
So they specifically stole from the temples
因为他们也不怕嘛。
because they weren't afraid.
好，这是犹太人。
So this was the Jews.
那他们这些穷人呢，
So these poor,
就变成以便尼派。
they became the Ebionites.
以便尼派在这是一个 theological school， 不能说 school 了，叫 thinking word 啊。他们呢认为呢，耶稣是人啊。
And this term refers to how they thought Jesus was a person,
对，
a man.
跟他们以前的神没有办法合在一起。
They could not connect Jesus to the God of the past.
那后来就演变成为所谓的那个养子论、世子论 （adoptionism）。
Later, it was turned into the abductionism. Adoptionalism. Adoptionism.
没有关系，反正你要来读 TTP， 对，那个时候就会了。
It's okay if you don't know this. If you go study TTP, you'll learn it.
神观改变了，
So the concept of God had changed.
所以史时代就完蛋了。
And so the era was ended.
使徒时代完蛋，不是说真理全部没有啊。
So the end of the apostolic age doesn't mean that the truth is gone.
使徒变质之后，真理还在吗？
If the changed, then is the truth still there?
不要忘记哈、哦，
Do not forget
这两个是并存的。
that these two are together.
存多久？
For how long?
存快要2000年。
Was there for 2,000 years.
这是主耶稣讲的比喻啊。
And this was the parable that Jesus spoke.
再把那个图画一下哈。
So again, I'll draw this picture.
有8个嘛哈。
There's 8.
最大的是，这是大括号。
And the first is
这个是什么？
this was the sower.
数学。
Or the first number.
这大括号啊。
These are the set.
好，再来中括号。
And then there's a subset.
你们数学应该有人讲这个。
In school, in math, you must be taught this.
是不是？再来小括号啊。
And then a subset.
是这样子吗？我都不知道。
Small brackets, parentheses.
Oh, is that one? Okay.
这个是一个圈。
And so these are circles.
这是那个马太福音13章的结构。
And so this is the conclusion of Matthew chapter 13. The structure of Matthew chapter 13.
你那个 text 一定要分析的，这个 structure analysis， 所以没关系，来那 TTP 这样说的。
You have to have the structural analysis. It's okay, you can learn this in TTP.
你一看这样就很清楚了，对不
And
对？
once you see this, it's very clear.
好，那在这个跟这个呢
And so this and this.
分开的，
And so there's a split between 4 and
为什么呢？
5. Why?
一个在室外
The one is in the past.
海边那个湖畔，
In
海
the
边哈，
this was by the sea.
应该不是现在那个 Charlotte 那个什么 lake 吧？
By the lake.
中文把它中文翻成加利利海，其实那不是一个 sea 啊，它是一个 lake 嘛。
It was by the Sea of Galilee, which is really a lake.
那这边呢，它已经进到房子里面，
And the second half was when they went into the
但
house.
是这两边是可以power。
And both of these are parallel.
没事哈，不要看东看西，那个 chat 那个 chat 那个，就把这个分析也蛮漂亮。
Do not just split them into ways that look organized.
所以这个跟这个是，
So there is a parallel.
对不对？这两个是， 有没有很漂亮？你画漂亮一点啊。
So maybe you can draw it prettier.
那这个一开始就是这个时代，
And so this is the start of this era.
耶稣开始的哈
This is what Jesus started.
，Son of Man 开始的，
This
还
is
记
this
得
is
吗
what the Son of Man started.
他种的好的，
He's planted the good.
后来
And later on,
那这个在当时没有拔出来，
and so at the time he did not pull these out.
保罗知道不知道？
Did Paul not know this?
知道。
He knew this.
我们来看那个哥林多后书，
Let's look at 2 Corinthians.
哥林多教会是保罗很痛心的流泪的教会。
And the church in Corinth was one that Paul shed a lot of tears for.
看起来问题是解决，其实后来你会知道你没解决。
It looked at first that the situation has been resolved, but later on it would be clear that it had not.
我们来看11节，
Let's look at
2章
verse
11
11.
节。
Chapter 2, verse 11. Chapter 2, verse 11. Lest Satan should take advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices.
保罗这边他都知道了哈，
So
我们并非不晓得他的诡计啊。
So Paul says that we're not ignorant of his devices.
保罗很知道魔鬼的诡计，
That Paul knew of Satan's devices,
但是拔不出来。
but he is not able to pull it out.
你看我们用一个例子来看啊，《使徒行传》第20章，
So let's look at an example on Acts chapter
《使徒行传》20章，
Acts chapter 20.
他要离开以弗所了。
When he was about to leave Ephesus,
离开之后，真的可能没有再回来了。
and after he left, he might not ever return.
他在那里3年，
So he had been there for 3 years.
他3年做什么？
And what did he do these 3 years?
可能很少人像他这样子。
And few people would be like him.
他3年干嘛？
What did he do for 3 years?
31节，
Verse 31. Acts chapter 20, verse 31. Therefore watch and remember that for 3 years I did not cease to warn everyone night and day with tears.
Night and day，一直在流眼泪。
That night and day he had tears. He was shedding tears.
这个应该是形容，不然的话那个他一定要不能给他卫生纸的，因为都
You couldn't give him
在前
clean.
面要带一个现代小孩子，有没有？
You couldn't give him Kleenex. You had to give him a bib.
现在小孩子那个围兜兜哈，
And nowadays the bibs that the
以前
children wear.
是布做的，现在是用那塑胶做的。
In the past it was with cloth. Now it's with plastic.
那吃东西掉下去，
And so when they eat stuff, it will just fall there.
那你眼泪掉下去就
And now if he cries, then it will drop down and be collected.
不会哭湿啦，
He will not cry till it's wet.
快要满了，干嘛？
He'll cry until it's full, and then he'll empty it out.
对，那是蛮宝贵的，
And this is a very precious thing
因为是作业啊，
because it's
Night and day, yeah.
he was night and day. He was
对
warning.
不对？没有停过，
He had never stopped.
只好用这种方式啊，用现代人来想股市哈，
This is
蛮有
wait,
趣的。
you can think of if you think of it the modern ways of thinking and brought to then it would be very interesting.
不然用卫生纸太本钱太大了。
It's the Kleenex is too basic for his sorrow.
是这样子吗？你有我们的 T 恤，那你一天要用多少啊？
If you use a tissue, how many would you need?
对不对？好，那做什么？
So what did he do? Had to do.
那个我们来看哈，第29节，
So let's look at verse 29.
他说：“我知道。
That he says, I know.
”29节念一下，
For 29. For I know this,
他
that
知道什么？
what does he know?
好，
That after my departure, savage wolves will come in among you, not sparing the flock.
他明明知道我一走，那豺狼就来。
He knew that as soon as he left, that the wolves would come.
如果你想，有一次哈，在那公狗，
And one time in Congo,
哦，公狗，哦，公狗，
Ogongo.
他们告诉你不晓得公狗在哪里啊？所以你要去非洲啊。刚回来就泰特是那里嘛哈，
So that's so Titus is
有一个工人叫泰特，
there's a worker named Titus there.
他们来聚会了，
He came to worship
回去一
the
看，
service, and when he returned,
他们那个什么把棍呢，他们那边
the baboons there
进到他们家去，
had entered his home.
怎么办？
So what does he do?
如果你晓得你走了，把棍会进到你家，你要怎么办？
If you were thought that a baboon would come into your house, what would you do?
什么赶他？你不在家赶
Chase
他，
them. You can't. You're not home. You can't chase them out.
要把门关好。
You have to close the door.
是不是？那你不关门，当然他进去了。
If you don't close the door, then the baboons will come in.
把棍会不会敲你门？
The baboons knock on the door.
因为他不会聪明到会开手啊，
He's not smart enough to open the door,
对不
to
对？
turn the doorknob.
是吧？关门嘛，
So you have to close the door.
门窗关好
You。have to close the windows and the doors.
你要小的血放下来。
You have to
啊，是
you have to close the shutters.
哎什么都关好，大
You
门的关都关，对不对？
You have to close everything.
保罗知道啊，
So Paul knew this.
他怎么不关门？
How would he not close the door?
为什么？
Why?
因为这个不是物质的门啊，
Because this is not a house door,
对不对？
right?
所以他明明知道，
So he knew
他一走，豺狼就来，
that as soon as he leaves, the thieves would come in.
豺狼来就吃喽。
And then once the wolves come in, that they will be devouring.
在这个时代也一样啊。
And so this is the same at this time, the Old Testament's age.
那个，这是很悲惨的事情。
And this is a very sad, sorrowful
我
thing.
们来看那个耶利米书
So let's turn to Jeremiah.
第10章。
Jeremiah chapter 10.
第19节，
Verse 19.
他说受伤了，痛苦忍受。
And he said, "Woe is me for my hurt."
来念一下，你要很悲伤的念哦，不要念好像不要好像快要结婚了，你已经结婚了，
Yeah.
好像你在结婚的时候啊，
So I have to read this while sorrowful. I can't read this as if keep getting married.
19、20节来，
So
你
verse
替别
19.
人念了哈，
So
替你的朋友如果是这样子的话，
so you have to read it as if your friend was like
当然
this.
不是你了，你
It's
这样
not,
就
of
太
course
悲
not
惨
you.
了。好，念念看，看你有没有那个同情的心。
Woe is me for my hurt. Mike.
你笑，人家悲伤你笑。
Woe is me for my hurt. My wound is severe. But I say, truly, this is an infirmity, and I must bear it.
挨骂，这是挨骂，就是说一定没有其他的 choice。挨骂，
I must means that I have no other choice.
明明知道就是这样啊，继续。
Knowing this, he must do like this.
好，接下来，
Verse 20. My tent is plundered, and all my cords are broken. My children have gone from me, and they are no more. There is no one to pitch my tent anymore or set up my curtains.
这什么意思？你知道吗？
Do you know what this means?
家破人亡啊！
That the home is destroyed.
在古时候哈
In the ancient days,
，tent 它代表什么？
what does a tent represent?
是什么？
What does it represent?
啊？
It represents the
你的
house.
tent 在哪里？
Where's your tent?
你的 tent 在哪里？
Where's your tent?
那因为两个都低头，
不
对不起，你知道吗？你不知道它是你的 tent，
Do you not know that she is your tent? It's a tent.
在哎呀，我哪里有 house？
Where is it? Can you do it to be a house?
所以你到哪里 tent 就要带着走，
So wherever you go, you have to bring your tent with you.
真的啊是 tent。
Really?
你看亚伯拉罕的故事哈，
So you see the story of Abraham
创世纪18章啊，
in Genesis chapter 18.
那故事的开始怎么样？
What was it like at the beginning of the story?
亚伯拉罕在哪里？
Where was Abraham?
在外面纳凉啊，因为太热了嘛。啊，
He
要
was-
记得你啊，纳凉
He was outside because it was too hot.
看到有人来了，
And then he saw someone coming.
来了你怎么办？
And when they come, what do you do?
当然跑到 tent 里面去啊，因为太太在那里，
He ran to a tent because that's where his wife was.
所以你要带着走，不然晚上睡哪里？
So you must bring the tent with you, otherwise where are you going to sleep at night?
哦，那这 tent 也 symbolize love
So,
family。
so this tent symbolizes love and family.
这里如果 tent 坏了怎么办？
So what do you do if the tent is broken?
爱情没有，
Is there any love left?
太太跑了，
The wife has run away.
太太一跑呢，
And what happens when the wife leaves?
绳索就断了。
Then the cords are broken.
这是什么
What does
那
this
个
mean?
tent 一定要有绳子啊。
The tent must need cords.
那这个 tent 就是爱的绳索
And so this tent is the
，the
love.
爱的绳啊，
This is the love of God.
知道吗？
The strings of love.
这个 love 是你的太太的 love
And this string of love is your wife's love.
啊，当然是从神来了。
And of course it comes from God.
broken 啊，
It's broken.
啊，怎么办？
So what do you do?
啊呢，一定有孩子啊，
And so you must have children.
孩子怎么
And what has happened to the children?
跑啊？
They've left.
所以家破人亡。
So the whole family is broken.
没有了，没有了啊，
So there's no more.
都出去了，没有了。
That they have all left and
然
gone.
后呢，
And then what?
没有人可以给你搭帐篷。
And then so no one can pitch your tent anymore.
在无人再支他我的帐篷。
And there's no one to pitch my tent or set my
那后
curtains.
面呢，挂起幔子，
And later on, it's mentioned about setting up the curtains.
Huh?
What is it?
你念呢？
最后一次。
哎，对，
Or set up my curtains.
哎，是可以。你去非洲哈，你有没有跟他们住啊？
If you go to Africa, we live with them.
他们每个人都是穷的，他们一般都有2栋房子。
They're all very poor, and
如果穷的也是有2栋房子，
even the poor has 2 houses, 2 sets.
一栋就是他们住的，
And one is where they live,
这属于男的。
and this is for the men.
另外是那个厨房。
And the second one is the kitchen.
我第一次见到他们厨房，
The first time I went into the kitchen,
好几，他们笑的是里面都是一些姊妹，笑的要死。我说，哎，怎么会这样子？
it was very small, but all the women were laughing.
他说男人不进厨房。
And they were saying that the men do not enter in.
他说你男人到我们厨房，
And so you're a man and you enter the kitchen.
他们感觉很新鲜。
So that was very new.
啊，这边男的这个呢？
And how about the side of the men?
如果这是一般都是圆的啦。
And so most of them are circular.
卡瓦啦，那个我都是住他们家的，
So I always lived in their home,
住他们的家。
lived in their house.
我住的那个家从有的也是4方的，
And some of them were also rectangular.
能够从这里进。
So I entered-
它这里是用一个幔子围起来的，
And they used curtains
这
to
边
be
小孩子
split.
睡这里，
And one side is the children sleep,
那这里有一个床，
and then the other side is a bed.
那他们就睡这里。
And so they slept there.
那这里是用布，
And so this was a cloth curtain.
古时候那个时候也差不多这样子，
And in the ancient days, that was approximately what it's like.
父母睡这里，
The father and mother slept on one
小
side,
孩睡这里。
and the children slept on the other.
我刚去的时候，他们就这个给我睡嘛，
And so when I went there, they gave me the bed to sleep in.
然后后来想不对，
And so later on, I thought it was not right.
我就自己搬到这里来睡了。
So I moved to the other side to sleep.
他们说，他们会把非洲人很好客，
That the people in Africa are very courteous,
非常。
hospitable. They're very
你
very
去
much
到他
so.
家，他会把最好的都给你。
That when you go there, they will give you the very best.
我又去一次去马赛啊，马赛
And one time I went to Maasai.
不认识哎，
I didn't recognize him.
我们去那边布道，
I went there to do
一
pastoral
个
work,
人请我们去他家，
and one person invited me to their home,
那个麦克树也有，
and Michael
他
Shu
们
was
把
there as well.
床底的所有的 rongo 哈，你知道吗？
They
都
gave
搬出来啊，
they gave everything on
不是
the.
rongo 你知道吗？你没有去过，有没有看过？是一个这样子哈，然后一个棍子，
It's
他们拿着这个好像 set， 你知道吗？
like a scepter.
你们都不知道啊。还有那个 stick，
And it's kind of like a stick, a staff, and they brought it out,
送给我们，我怎么拿得走？
and they told us to take it.
那我最后就拿一根这个，拿一根那个，现在还放在我家。
So I took one of the rongos and I took one stick
叫 rongo。
rongos and one sticks, and I brought it home.
然后我们要走了，
And
他
so-
拿一只鸡来啊，
And as we were about to leave, they gave us a chicken.
那个太太说要杀了。
They told
你怎么
the wife
叫我们
said
要吃完才走，哦不行啊，要去布道。
the wife said, "Oh, we have to about to kill it, and you have to eat before you go." But I told them, "No, we're supposed to go for a more pastoral.
你要去他家，
So if you want to go to their home,
你要住他家，
you have to live in their home.
你会享受最好的招待。
You will receive the best welcome."
我们很少去美国或是去英国，说你去人家家再好的再有信心的，也不会把 master room 给你睡啊。
Even when I house in